The candles flickered on a warm Mississippi night in August 1847, inside the grand Whitmore plantation house. The crystal goblets glittered in the candlelight, as if tiny flames had been trapped inside the glass. Wine swirled red like blood, and 12 members of the Whitmore family lifted their glasses for a toast. They believed they were celebrating life, Judge Cornelius Whitmore's 62nd birthday. But in reality, each sip was sealing their death. Within an hour, laughter would turn into screams. The polished dining hall of one of Mississippi's grandest plantations would be filled not with music, but with choking, vomiting, and the sound of bodies hitting the floor. And the woman responsible. She wasn't holding a gun. She wasn't carrying a knife. She held only a ladle, a recipe book hidden in her mind, and a determination sharper than any blade. Her name was Clara, an enslaved cook who, on one hot August night in 1847, brought an entire plantation dynasty crashing down with poison and patience. The Whitmore plantation stretched across 3,000 acres of cotton outside Natchez, Mississippi. It was a kingdom built on sweat and suffering, ruled by Judge Cornelius Whitmore, a man feared in the courtroom and on his land. His wife Margaret ran the household with cold efficiency, managing nearly 50 enslaved workers. That night, the house was alive with voices. Their 4 children had returned with spouses and grandchildren. Laughter filled the air. The smell of roasted duck mingled with sweet magnolia blossoms drifting in from the fields. On the surface, it looked like a picture of Southern prosperity. But standing in the kitchen doorway, half hidden in the shadows, was Clara. She had stirred every pot, seasoned every dish, and carried every platter to the table. To the Whitmores, she was invisible, just another servant. But Clara was watching, waiting, and inside her apron pocket rested a secret that would end the Whitmore line forever. Clara hadn't always been here. 11 years earlier, she was sold at a slave auction in New Orleans. She had 2 young daughters clinging to her skirt that day. By the end of it, the girls were gone, sold to another plantation. Clara never saw them again. The Whitmores became her new owners. She cooked their meals, scrubbed their pots, and endured their cruelty in silence. But inside, she was never silent. She memorized the faces of the men who tore her family apart. She stored away her grief, her rage, and her hunger for justice. And she began to plan. Rat poison. That was her tool. Arsenic could be bought at any general store without suspicion. Plantations always had rat problems, and a black woman purchasing it raised no alarm. For 3 months, Clara collected it in small amounts, hiding the powder inside a gourd behind sacks of flour. She studied how much to use, enough to kill, but not enough to be tasted. She learned from overheard conversations with the plantation doctor, pretending to dust nearby while absorbing every detail. She even tested small amounts on stray dogs to calculate the timing. Clara wasn't just cooking dinner, she was preparing an execution. As the Whitmore family feasted, Clara moved silently, spooning rich sauces over duck, sprinkling garnish over vegetables, setting the birthday cake in the kitchen to wait. Every dish carried poison. At first, nothing seemed wrong. The judge made speeches, glasses clinked. A child complained the vegetables tasted strange, but her grandmother scolded her to clean her plate. By 7:45, the first signs appeared. Little Emma vomited onto the table. Her mother tried to stand but collapsed. Judge Whitmore staggered, clutching at his throat, his face turning purple. Panic spread like fire. The family gasped, convulsed, and collapsed, one by one, their fine clothes soaking in sweat and vomit. The great patriarch himself slumped face first into his birthday cake. Someone shouted, "We've been poisoned!" All eyes turned toward the kitchen door, but Clara was gone. By midnight, the Whitmore mansion was as quiet as a tomb. 12 members of the family lay dead in the dining hall. Candles still burned, their wax dripping like tears. The enslaved workers knew what had happened. They heard the screams. They smelled the vomit and saw the bodies. But no one ran for the doctor. No one called for help. They folded laundry. They washed dishes. They sat silently on their porches, letting justice take its course. For years, they had been powerless. That night, they witnessed power shift in the most unexpected way. While the house fell silent, Clara walked swiftly toward the river. In her bundle were forged papers naming her as a free woman, a change of clothes, and $37 stolen from her mistress's drawer. She knew the swamp paths by heart, having studied them under the moonlight during years of bondage. By dawn, she was gone, riding with the help of the Underground Railroad, heading north. When the deaths were discovered the next morning, chaos erupted. The enslaved community had to think fast. Ruth, Clara's closest friend, forged a bill of sale proving Clara had been sold weeks earlier to a plantation in Georgia. When the sheriff questioned them, they wept and pretended to be heartbroken. The family grew sick so suddenly, they said. We tried to help, but nothing worked. But then investigators found something terrifying in Clara's old cabin, a journal. Written in code, it revealed poison recipes, dosage calculations, and a chilling list of names. The Whitmores weren't her first. Over the years, Clara had quietly moved from household to household. Each time, a death followed. The Hendersons, the Beauregards, the Lancasters, families connected through marriage, money, and cruelty. Each family had taken part in selling Clara or her daughters, and each one eventually paid with their lives. The Whitmores were not a random act of revenge. They were the finale. News of the poisoning spread across Mississippi like wildfire. Panic gripped the South. Plantation owners dismissed trusted servants. Some forced enslaved cooks to taste every dish before serving. One woman with nothing but patience and powder had shaken the entire system of slavery. Authorities launched a massive search. Posters described Clara, 30 years old, scar on her hand, medium build. Rewards rose to thousands of dollars. Slave catchers with dogs hunted the countryside. But Clara was clever. She lightened her skin with lye, padded her clothes to look heavier, and wore gloves to hide her scar. She changed names as easily as clothes. Sarah Coleman, Adoni, seamstress, widow, devout churchwoman. Each stop of the Underground Railroad moved her further north, further away from Mississippi. Clara's journey wasn't just about freedom. It was about her daughters. For years, she'd traced rumors and scraps of letters, trying to find them. She heard whispers that they had been sold north, maybe even to Canada. Every risk she took, every family she poisoned, every mile she traveled was for them. Some say she was eventually captured in Ohio. Others whisper she made it across the border, reunited with her daughters, and lived out her days in Canada under a new name. The truth may never be known. But one thing is certain, Clara's act terrified the South. She showed that even in the darkest corners of slavery, resistance could take root. Not with armies, not with speeches, but with a spoon, a steady hand, and a heart burning with vengeance. On that August night in 1847, Clara of Natchez didn't just poison a family. She poisoned the illusion of control that slaveholders thought they had. Now here's the question. Was Clara a cold-blooded murderer, or was she a freedom fighter who delivered justice in the only way she could? Drop your thoughts below, and if stories like this fascinate you, hit that like button and subscribe for more untold chapters of history.